Welcome to the Global Discussion, discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. My name's Simon Hodgkins, and I'm delighted to be here today with Olivia Brooks. You're very welcome to the podcast, Olivia. Let's begin by asking you to introduce yourself to our worldwide audience today. So over to you, Olivia.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on today. My name's Olivia. I am a college student living in Florida. I am currently a junior working in editing, writing, and media, but I also own a small business called Chronicles and Coffee that is based around all social media platforms and is a website that serves as a hotspot for writers and readers and book lovers. Extending out to artists of all kinds. But yeah, so I've been doing this and kind of joining the writing community and reading community since mid 2021. Kind of when I was in the depths of college, I decided I wanted to kind of pick up a passion of some sort, and it's turned into an amazing business where I get to meet people and come on shows like this and also conduct my own shows for my own podcast, as well as have a great Twitter following and meet people, extend it out to Instagram. It's just been great. And then my website, of course, which where I've posted over 100 indie and self-published book reviews for people, and just recently started collabing with other people for projects and doing community spotlights for authors who need their voices heard. So yeah, it's been a great journey so far. And alongside that, I'm the editorial assistant in the English department at my university. I want to be an editor post undergrad, and then I am the editor at a comic book publishing house called Submarine Treehouse. So that's really fun to get into the comic industry as well. But yeah, it's a little bit about me.
Well, thanks so much for sharing that, Olivia. And it's great to have you on the show today, because from a creative perspective, it's obvious that you have a creative side to what you're doing. You know, I love Chronicles and Coffee. I think it's a great title. You've got great success and readership already. You've obviously got a passion when it comes to the written word, both the written word and this reading community that you're developing on social media. So what attracted you to that in the first place? Why are you studying what you're studying at university? Where does that drive and that passion come from?
Well, I've always loved to write and read. I That's just been a long time thing of mine. I actually came into college with expecting to double major in criminology and psychology because at the time I was like, okay, I love to read and I love to write. I'd kind of fallen off the bandwagon a little bit, but it's always come back up for me. And so when I entered college, I was in that other degree track, but that's when I started up my Twitter and everything. And I just was like, okay, I need to do something I'm passionate about, and I need to make sure I'm doing what I love in life. Money matters, but your happiness matters more. And so I switched over to editing, writing, and media. And the first year it was kind of just boosting off, kind of just doing Twitter. I didn't really have a company name at the time. It wasn't an official business. I was just kind of reaching out. It originally was called the Livy Chronicles. And then I was like, I don't want to base this off of me. Let's create a whole domain and a more broad spectrum of a title for it. And it transformed into Chronicles and Coffee. And then, yeah, switching majors into this other track definitely was helpful. I've met so many amazing faculty members and people in my program that are interested in what I'm interested in. And it's really encouraging and reassuring to have your one building at university where everybody in it is kind of interested in books and reading and writing. And it's kind of a surreal feeling coming from grade schools and living at home your whole life where you know everybody all the time. So yeah, that was a great change, and it's just always been a part of me, and I think now I've kind of like finally kind of captured it and ran with it, and I'm glad that I did.
Absolutely. And it's a wonderful creative endeavor. And thanks for sharing that. But one of the things that I know you are passionate about is sharing the unheard voices. And one of the things we like to do on this show is ask people about their own favorite books and learning styles, etc. And we'll come to that in a little while, because I want to ask you the same thing. But could you maybe just tell me a little bit about, how you go about showcasing these unheard voices? Because there's a depth of talent in the writing field, and yet some of these people, some of these books, some of these people, you don't hear about them, or you don't come across them. And it's the discovery challenge, I suppose. And obviously, we're talking today, we're on different sides of the Atlantic, so your news is certainly getting out there, and you're definitely reaching a worldwide audience. But tell me a little bit about why you feel it's so important to help those unheard authors.
I think as someone who wants to write and someone who is aspiring to be in the position as so many of these writers, it really was eye-opening as I started to join Twitter specifically, where everybody's a lot more open to just kind of sharing their thoughts and experiences, but in such a restricted 200 word count way. And I always have just been very open to meeting people who have work done, but are also very personal on talking, and they're beyond the surface level. They're not just there to give you their book, ask you to read it, and then leave. They want to start a conversation because I've learned everybody's experiences of why they write and why they do whatever their creative passion is, as you probably know, is just so much more interesting and makes their work and their books so much more like personal. And so yeah, I just wanted to give that back and prove that like I can review your book and I can talk to you and get to know you and share your work and share your voice, but also maintain that relationship and connection with you because I think that's so important. Like writing is such a isolating idea in the moment, but everything beyond that is so communal, and the best like writers are the ones that have that best outreach and like community, and a lot of people know the writer from beyond their books. Like famous writers, you know them for them, like you love their books, but that's just a package deal that comes along with them as people, and I think that's so important.
I love that. And also the written word, obviously, we're talking a lot about here, and we're talking a little bit about discovery. But one of the things that I love that you're doing is you have the Chronicles and Coffee podcast. And I know it's a growing thing, and I know it's getting traction. But tell me a little bit about the podcast, amplify it here with our audience. Tell us about how it's going. Tell us about how you're finding that podcasting world. I'm sure you listen to podcasts yourself anyway, but let's hear all about Chronicles and Coffee, the podcast.
I love podcasts. I listen to them all the time. And in the back of my mind, I've always been like, I would love to start a podcast. Like it just has always been so like I love to talk about things that I'm passionate about. And I love to talk about that kind of stuff with people who reciprocate that passionate. Like I'm way more open to talking about things with people like you who understand and are equal on that level. So it was kind of a funny joke. I'm not a numbers person. I don't like to benchmark myself off of the amount of followers I get or anything like that. But on Twitter, I had made a joke with myself. I was like, if you hit 10,000 followers, you have to start a podcast. And then I hit 10,000 followers right at the beginning of December when I was supposed to be on a break from college classes for a month. And I was like, okay, if I don't start it now, that's the worst missed opportunity. So I made myself do all the research and everything, get it up and going. And by the first week of January, I had published episodes and I've been doing weekly ones since then. Um, I mix between solo episodes and interviews just based on who reaches out to me and who wants to come on and who seems interested. I've always loved podcasts that are entertaining that you can listen to and like you kind of smile and nod along, but also when you leave it and you're walking around 30 minutes after you listen to it, you think about what you just learned and you don't even realize how much you just learned from it. And I think that is like something that I really want to come across of and as. So like that's why I kind of interweave those solo episodes that talk about my research and my experiences with writing, but then hearing about the experiences of other people in the interviews. And I'm really loving where it's at right now. I think it's a great accessibility tool to just outreach even more and helps kind of broaden the business as well. So yeah, I love it so far.
And I love the copy that you have that goes with it, which is grab a cup of your favorite drink and
Yeah.
tune in weekly to these book talks, this writing advice and these interviews with great people from the industry. So congratulations on the podcast. Congratulations on the traction that you're getting with Chronicles and Coffee. I love the way you're going about it. Not that you need my encouragement. You're doing great. But
Thank
it is
you.
a wonderful resource, and I'm sure over time it will build up even more and more. And it's such a global topic. So let's come back to the question we touched on earlier. I'm going to ask you about, your favorite books or authors or topics or genres, and also a little bit about your learning style. You've said you like podcasts, but there's audio, the world of audio books is out there as well as written books. Or are you that busy that by the end of the evening you just want to put on Netflix and forget about it? How does it work for you, and what are your favorite books, Olivia?
I definitely am a physical paperback reader. I love to listen to podcasts, but audiobooks, as much as I try and get into them, I just prefer to read and have the experience of reading. I find I can pace myself, sometimes if I want to read a story quicker or slower, it's just completely up to me. And I love to own and build up my own mini library. That's my favorite. I think buying books and reading books are two separate hobbies, but that's for a different story, of course. Um, but yeah, I love to read fantasy. That's always been kind of my main genre. I like to write fantasy, and that's more like low fantasy, where it's like stuck in reality of places that we know that exist, but then have that magical realism and those like creatures and cool elements weaved into it to kind of give you that like escapism, but like you can establish that setting and kind of understand it really easy. But I think through Chronicles and Coffee, it's been amazing also in part for myself personally, because I am open to reading whatever anybody reaches out to me with. So I've been able to read so many genres I probably would have never picked up before, which is great. Especially editing in the comic book industry now. I've been able to see storytelling in a different medium, and I have a huge appreciation for that now. And I love to read graphic novels and comics. But yeah, and I've been very into literary fiction recently. But I don't like to, restrict myself to one. But if I draw myself towards something, it's usually that like fantasy element. Um, I'd say last year I read a book called Piranesi by Susanna Clark. That is a very high fantasy novel, but it was like one of the best. Like it's a book that I think back on when I think of what's your favorite book. Like it was just so unique. So I definitely recommend that one. Um, V.E. Schwab is an author that kind of inspired my own writing. She has such a great way of telling fantasy elements in such a realistic but like unique way. I love her writing. She inspires me a lot. And then I just have like a few other random, like from when I was younger, Brandon Mule. He had the Fablehaven series. That's like a series I grew up on and loved, that I like go back to it all the time thinking about it. But yeah, just a lot of picking here and there. I like to go off of recommendations. I post a lot asking what do you like to read, and then I kind of go through what other people have to say and try and broaden myself. But yeah, so that's like my reading range, and I definitely, yeah, I'm a physical reader when it comes to learning about stuff. I like to read articles, do that, but I also like to learn through podcasts, but I'm definitely more on the reading side.
I like that a lot, and I'm sure with Chronicles and Coffee, you won't be short of reading material. I'm sure there'll be lots of books and authors getting in touch. Um, you made 2 points there that made me just reflect on a couple of things, and that is the purchasing of books and with paperback or hardback, and building up the building up the bookshelf or the
Mhm.
library. And it's interesting. I was talking to a couple of authors recently, really well-known global authors who have been very successful, have many, many, many books out there in publication. And we had a fascinating discussion where I was sort of saying that my bookshelves now, when I look at them, are groaning under the strain, and I'm forever buying bookshelves. And I kind of moved into the world of audiobooks because I kind of went, well, how many bookshelves can I actually own and build? but I do love them. And as well as enjoying the book, enjoying the author, enjoying the visual setting on a bookshelf, there was also something very special, which was I could remember almost to the day when I purchased the book and a moment in time. So now, as I look back, it almost serves as a visual sort of diary, a visual calendar of where I was at a particular moment in time in my life, and when I bought a certain book or when I enjoyed a certain book, whether that's business books or fiction or whatever it is, which I think is a wonderful thing. So I do get that. There's nothing better than cracking the spine on a new book and getting immersed in it. And the other thing that you made me think about, Olivia, was the control element that you have with a physical book. Because a lot of the times with audiobooks, and I'm a big audiobook fan as well as a physical book, but you can do other things. And I was talking to an author recently, Sam Blake, who is the #1 crime writer and fiction writer in Ireland. She's had a lot of international success with her books. Vanessa Fox O'Loughlin, she writes under the name of Sam Blake. And she loves the written book as well, because you have the undivided attention. You can't do something else when you're reading a book. So I absolutely love that, So thank you for sharing that. Now, before we run out of time, because I know you're busy too, I want to just throw a couple of questions at you, change gear for a moment, okay? One of my questions is, who do you admire? Who's inspiring you? Who do you look up to? When I ask you that kind of question, what springs to mind, Olivia?
Well, I'm really bad at kind of pinpointing specific people sometimes. I think it's overall just the people that I'm collaborating with and the people that I have had the opportunity who has been willing to reach out and trust me with their work and trust me to come on my podcast and um, like take my word and let me take theirs and kind of construct it to kind of help them. It's just really inspiring because like I know how difficult and like it can be so like off standish to do that sometimes. Like sometimes I feel like even as a writer, when somebody asks me about my work, I get a little like I just kind of get a little hesitant. And to see writers be so open and willing to kind of connect is inspiring in itself. Um, but yeah, I like I said, I have like those few specific authors that I really look up to and I keep up with. I follow a few authors who really post on like Instagram, like Neil Gaiman, Victoria Aveyard. There's a young author who's from my hometown who now lives in New York City and is a best-selling author. Her name's Alex Astor. There's just a bunch of people like that who I love to keep up with and see that they're open to posting about their personal lives and they're like, I'm beyond a writer. So anybody who's just willing to do that, I am inspired by.
I like that a lot. Thanks for sharing that, Olivia. What about advice? Has there been some advice that somebody's passed on to you? Now, this could be from your early childhood. It could be something that happened to you last week. Is there any advice that you think's really important that you keep with you that helps you, or is there advice that you pass on to others?
There's some advice that I used to see around a lot, both in context of writing, but also just life in general. And it was that like you need motivation to do stuff, but sometimes you don't have motivation, so you have to have discipline. And if you have discipline, then you're going to keep going at something. And then when you see the effect of in the results, you're going to gain that motivation back. So I think that's so important for me is to just stay consistent and stay disciplined within myself. Because even if I wake up and have a day where I feel unmotivated, I know that through that discipline, I'm gonna do it, and I know in the long run, I am gonna be motivated by looking back and seeing at what I accomplished, even on the days where I felt like I couldn't accomplish something. And I think kind of keeping that in mind, and that this is in my control and this is in my power, and like I do know who I want to be is so important. And I keep that in mind for myself. And I also like to mention that to people whenever they make little comments like, "Oh, I don't want to do this assignment. Oh, I don't want to write today or I don't have time to read." I'm like, "Okay, well, you just gotta kind of stay disciplined and embed it like it's a lifestyle, and then soon enough it will be, and you won't even need that motivation anymore. It's just a part of life.
That's so smart. And discipline and consistency are certainly helpful for lots of reasons. And I think what you're touching on there is how motivation can ebb and flow. We're emotional creatures, and some days you can be extremely motivated, and other days you don't want to do anything. So having that built up, that habit of consistency and discipline as well, I think that's really good advice. So thanks, Olivia. The other thing I wanted to ask you as well is about the year ahead, the next 6 to 12 months. What are you hoping to achieve? What's on the roadmap for Chronicles and Coffee? What does it look like for you as you move forward?
Well, I just want to kind of like that last thing, just stay consistent with myself. I think sometimes it can be overwhelming and you can kind of jump too far ahead and try and do too many things at once. And right now I'm just trying to stay on that path of staying consistent because I know that it leads to better things and higher potential. And so kind of just staying in inside like the boundaries of what I know like I need to do and just keeping on with it. Hopefully everything just continues to grow at this steady pace, and if anything has that exponential moment too. But yeah, so I think just keeping going where I'm at right now, continuing to collaborate with people and see how the effort that I'm putting in can kind of be shown like on my website and everywhere for people to trust me more. And yeah, and then I would love to be able to finish a book that I'm writing, finish the final draft of it, and start to, reach out in the author standpoint of everything to kind of, for my own personal benefit, of course, but also to start to really understand where these authors come from and understand the whole process of it without just like hearing about it. So, yeah, hopefully in the next year, all of that will just stay the same and grow as it comes with time. But yeah.
That's brilliant. And it sounds like you've got an exciting 6 to 12 months ahead for sure. The last thing I wanted to ask you before we wrap up, Olivia, is there anything else that you'd like to touch on or share with our worldwide audience? And also, and importantly, if people want to find out more about Chronicles and Coffee or the podcast, where's the best place to send people to?
Well, for that point, you just have to type in chroniclesandcoffee.com, and through there you'll be able to see everything on my website and all of the links to all of the social media. So that's kind of the home base to find everything. I post something somewhere every day, so there's constantly something going on no matter what platform it's on. So that's really good to kind of be everywhere because there's always something happening. But yeah, I think the most important thing is like if you're like feeling hesitant about something, but you're really passionate about it, to just do it because in the long run, you're going to, I don't want to say regret because I don't like to say that we have regrets in life really, but you're just going to wish that you kind of did it because I kind of wish, I think I started this at such a good point in my life, but at the same time, like if I was younger and I was also passionate about it at the same level and I would have started it, sometimes I wonder where I could be now. But I think obviously everything happens at a certain time in life for a reason. And so I think this is your sign if you've been waiting for a sign to, start whatever you've been wanting to start.
I couldn't agree more. I think that's great advice. And I think that you're certainly on to something really, really special here. So continued success, Olivia. I love everything that you're doing. And, success, as we know, it doesn't have to come overnight, and scaling doesn't have to come overnight. And I think, remaining true to what you're trying to do, which is you're really this hotspot for writers, for readers, for artists, and for people that just have a love of books. And I think that's such an important thing. So congratulations on all your success. That brings us nicely to the end of our discussion today. So thank you to Olivia for being with me here on this episode of the Global Discussion. Thanks to everybody who's watching or listening to this episode around the world. Make sure that you like, follow, subscribe, do everything that I need you to do to help support this podcast. And of course, the Chronicles and Coffee podcast. And I hope you join me back here for more discussions with creatives, leaders, and thinkers. So thank you, Olivia. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you again today.
Thank you so much. I loved being here.